Chappelle just got himself a special, which I thought it was funny. However, he goes. I don't know if it's a rant. I don't know if it's I don't know what you could call it about LGBTQ plus A and transsexuals, and he talks about a friend that was transsexual, and some people felt some type of way. Some people working on Netflix felt some type of way, and they even planning a walkout. Some people were trying to ban Dave Chappelle. Netflix has stood over and stood by their decision, and the special is getting a lot of, it's getting a lot of praise, and it's getting a lot of hate, and it's getting a lot of attention. So we're gonna talk to Hillary because she is the
The
LGBTQ plus.
resident gay.
Yes,
I'm your token gay.
you're not the token gay, but you're the gay Acadian. So when it comes
I'm
to
the
those stuff,
I'm a Acadian.
yeah. So we got to talk to you when it comes to those things first, and then we'll figure
All
it
kinds
out.
of sound bites this episode. Eh?
I mean, it can't be worse than the tantric PPC sex guy, so it can't be worse than that. So
That didn't happen. That didn't happen.
Are you still creeping his page? By the way, I meant to ask you that tonight. Maybe
I've not looked back into it. I'm just very thankful that not a single family member said, "Hey, good podcast episode this week," or anything about it at all.
Oh.
No one said a single word.
all I heard,
that's not necessarily a good thing.
I'm
If you
going
usually get
home tomorrow.
If
We'll
you usually
see.
get feedback, and
Look.
then there was no feedback on this one.
all I heard from people is like, that shit was wild. Like, you guys were wild, and
Hey,
I think they judge all of us. Most people judged all of us for this episode. So
they can
that
judge
episode.
us. If they'd like to pay us for more content, go to Patreon and maybe we'll make a very spicy
I was pretty silent
episode.
on that one. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was more vocal in the private chat. To be honest.
Yeah, that's okay. We all have our moments. Back to being the resident gay. Had a lot of problems with the special. It felt like, hi, I'm Dave Chappelle. I was given a certain amount of money to make a certain amount of specials, and I've run out of things to say. So I'm just going to continue to beat on this one point for an hour and make it worse. I didn't really find it funny. There were some moments that were funny. I'm okay with laughing, sometimes with and sometimes not with. Black communities, gay communities, I understand that there can be humor in trauma. I would not be the person that I am if I did not laugh at the situations that I have been in. But at certain points, it felt a little bit like we get it. And I just pulled up an article that has quoted the joke that I think was sort of like the biggest problem of it all was the whole conversation in I come in peace and I want to save DaBaby, which DaBaby's comments were shitty. And while I thought that one line was funny, to then go into describing the fact that apparently it's true that DaBaby shot and killed somebody in Walmart, that did nothing to his career, but the way he spoke about the gay community is what got him canceled, how problematic that is. And then Dave Chappelle saying he's jealous of the movement that the gay community has made. And I think the crux of the problem with that is that you're highlighting exactly the problem with America, which is it should be a bigger deal that this person killed somebody than what he said about the gay community. Both of those things are very shitty things. I do think it is a worse thing to kill somebody in Walmart. I think it's more of a reflection on how sad America is as a country, that did not give him as many consequences or penalize him in the same way that his comments about AIDS did. And I think that what Dave Chappelle said about feeling jealous about the LGBTQ plus communities movement and the progress that they've made is in a way the same conversation that we've been having around different minorities not supporting other minorities because we're all trying to fight the white man, and sort of this weird jealousy thing, which also undermines every single queer and Black person for having to have double the fight, and ignores the fact that Marsha P. Johnson, the first person to throw the stone at Stonewall, is a trans Black woman. You're just shitting on a whole community for money. And I did not really ever laugh. It just felt like berating a point for no reason, and then referencing I know trans people and I know gay people in almost a way of being like, I can say this shit when no one asked for this to be the like headlining topic of your special. And you did not, if the crux at the beginning was, I'm not doing another special until me and the LGBTQ plus community are on the same side, I guess you just guaranteed yourself a vacation, because I don't think that we're ever going to be on the same side. That's all.
Wow, you really think that you guys will never get along with Dave Chappelle?
I mean, don't say you guys like I am the spokesperson for the gays.
No.
I've been gay for
right.
like 3 years. Can everyone chill? However, I don't
okay,
like.
yeah, you're right.
If
You're
the joke
right.
of the special is I'm not doing another special until we all get along, it seems to me that a lot of queer people are going to have a lot of beef for a really long time about this, especially considering the queer people at Netflix who feel that this type of special and this type of rhetoric encourages hate speech, encourages people to speak this way. And so I just don't know that like everyone's going to get back on board, but I could be wrong.
Okay. What about you, Clinton? What do you think about the whole special?
I have so many thoughts and feelings about this topic that I don't think I'll be able to remember them all or unpack them all in one, response here. But Dave Chappelle's most recent special was really shocking to me. It made me question a few of the things he said. And at the same time, fell in line with, who Dave Chappelle always has been and who he's become. One thing for certain, and I agree with everything you said, Hillary, but one thing for certain is that Dave Chappelle definitely isn't doing specials for the money. Dave Chappelle is one of the most iconic and unique people in show business, in the sense that, like he said in his episode, this is true, I remember, in his fourth season of his show, The Chappelle Show, which ran from like 2003 to 2006, right after the last season he had started, or right before it did, he walked away from it. He walked away from the contract. He walked away from a $50 million contract because he didn't like the way the producers were trying to make him do his comedy about Black people. So he definitely has integrity and his own set of values and ethics. Everyone has their own set of ethics and moral, like and a moral code that he stands by. So definitely didn't do it for the money. Now, I have watched a lot of stand-up comedy, and I find that stand-up comedy is usually like 80% jokes and like 20% sermon, a Sunday sermon, not about God or religion, but about whatever that comedian believes in. They always try to interject into their show some kind of dialogue with a story and a moral ethic and a life lesson or something like that. With Dave Chappelle's special, I found it was like 30% comedy and like 70% him just preaching his personal agenda. So it wasn't the funniest one I'd ever seen by far, but he was being real to himself. The one thing that was the most shocking to me is that when he said that being trans is an okay choice, right? I was surprised you didn't mention that, like, because a lot of the arguments in the LGBTQIA plus community, is that right? Is that
LGBTQ twin spirit 2S
I
IA plus, if you really want to get it. Or my favorite thing is Justin Trudeau can't do it anyway. So
I was close.
You're very close.
I just say LGBTQ plus because it's just getting
I
longer.
know.
So
I just saw it today though,
just,
so
Hey.
it stuck out. I hadn't even seen those other letters before. He said he said what a lot of, I think, people think and are afraid to say. I don't think that. I don't necessarily agree with everything he said, but I mean, Dave Chappelle is a legend. The stand-up comedy has always been something that has pushed barriers, shocked people. I mean, comedy nowadays, it's really hard to surprise anyone or shock people after their Family Guys and South Parks and things like that. You really have to take it to the next level to get people's attention. His beef with the LGBTQ, I'm just going to leave it at that, community started way back in 2005. So this has been an ongoing drama. And I don't think he did it for this, but drama creates attention. Like his last special was the most popular stand-up special that Netflix had ever released. It topped the charts. It blew every, like, Netflix has hundreds of stand-up comedies on it, and his last one, it just like blew shit out of the water. So there was no way Netflix was going to turn this away. And with all the controversy, he's getting more views and likes by his haters and lovers alike, just like the baby. Like I was saying, he said that controversial shit right before his album dropped. And by the way, the baby killed someone out of, he says, self-defense. There was a gun. There was a gun wielder in Walmart. He was with his wife and his kids. Anyways, I don't know if he should have gone to jail, but he didn't just cold-blooded murder someone. So, anyways, that was kind of wrong about Dave Chappelle as well. My point, I think, and let me wrap this up, was that, well, I don't agree with everything Dave Chappelle says. I don't think he is against the LGBTQ plus community at all. I think he may not be the best ally or supporter. Um, but yeah, you can't be like, I know a trans person, I'm not. That's like saying I have three black friends. That part didn't, but also he did a bit more than that. He took this person on stage. It was a show opener, supposed to do all the shows in San Francisco whenever he went back. And then the person that committed, well, we don't want to give too many spoilers, but I think we already did give a lot of spoilers. We should put a spoiler alert at the beginning of this podcast. Point is, it was something that will be talked about and linked with Dave Chappelle for years. He's iconic. He's going to go down in history as one of the best comedians of all time, for sure. Hate it or not. He just knows how to, even his show, the Chappelle show, was super offensive back in the day. I don't know how to wrap this up. It wasn't as funny as all his other episodes. I don't think he is homophobic in any way, but it definitely was controversial and problematic, and people need to see it for themselves.
I mean, in my personal opinion, and I'll get this back to you guys. I think Dave Chappelle is opening a conversation to a community that is having issues with accepting or getting the LGBTQ plus, which is
Mm-hmm.
the black community. I
Mm-hmm.
think he's opening a conversation to those people when he mentions the baby, and he mentions all of that, and Dave Chappelle is really respected. I think he opens a gate for a community that has a lot of issues with homosexuality, that it's now kind of accepting, and it's a lot of people are pushing back. If you look at a lot of rappers like Boosie and a lot of people that they're like, they're pushing back against this, homosexuality. And again, if you look at, statistics, that it's harder for men of color to be, accepted as a transgender or as a homosexual or as a polyamorous or what, as everything. Uh, so I believe that if you didn't like it, that's fine. I mean, I mean, I don't like Larry the Cable Guy or Jex Foxworthy or none of those guys, but people like them. I don't like certain comedians. People are able to accept that they don't find them funny. People are able to accept that maybe they feel a little bit offensive, but that's what comedy is supposed to do, right? That's the bread and butter. I think if you look at from the people like George Carlin and you go as back as, I don't know, Eddie Murphy, or you go as back as, I remember Eddie Murphy delirious that he makes fun of Michael Jackson and he makes fun of Bill Cosby, and Bill Cosby didn't like it, and he talks about that. Richard Pryor was one of the guys that he talked about a lot about things like that. But I also think that in a perspective, he talks to a lot. He talks to an audience that a lot of people don't reach out. Like Kevin Hart doesn't talk about that because he's too mainstream. That would lose his audience. Chris Rock doesn't talk about that. Jerry Seinfeld doesn't talk about that. I don't know which was the biggest comedian right now. I think it's just right now it's Kevin Hart, and who else can we mention? I don't know,
I,
but
I like the comedians that I like that I would say are controversial just because they tend to talk about like very sort of anti-feminist stuff, despite my stance on that, is like Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer, Bill Burr, John Mulaney, even Pete Davidson has a special. None of them are talking about the gays.
exactly, Pete Davidson. Yeah, you could hear, and Dave Chappelle is literally talking about these topics that he reaches out to an audience that I don't think a lot of guys reach out. Like he reaches out to an old mainstream hip hop underground audience. You won't hear Cat Williams talking about that either. And Cat Williams made a lot of fun about gay people back in the day. Like a lot of them did, not just him, but a lot of them did. So I think, personally, I think sometimes we're missing the big picture that, yeah, you may not like it. Yeah, you didn't find it funny, which is that's cool. But he's talking about a topic that is really, really in our faces all the time, but we seem not to, we seem not to talk about it often. Like, oh, like, how many transsexuals get killed all the time, or kids that are homeless because their family don't accept them, or transgenders that get bullied, like the comedian that she got bullied and she killed herself. Like, those are topics that it takes a lot of guts to talk about. Like it takes a lot of guts to talk about. And I think I agree with Clinton said. Dave Chappelle doesn't care about the money. I think he could care less if Netflix doesn't hire him anymore. I think he could care less because he gave up a $50 million contract. He gave up a lot of movies. He doesn't even do movies now. He doesn't even want to write movies. Like I think the he it takes a lot of guts to do what he did, regardless of what you think about it. I think people need to talk about what the bigger picture about the guts that takes to do that on a mainstream service like Netflix, right? Because a lot of, like Clinton said, there's 100 of specials there, and they don't get as much appeal as that special itself. So, and I'm gonna go back to you guys on this one. Do you guys think, you know, do you think he should be praised for that, or do you think people should take it like, well, again, I can't speak for the LGBTQ plus community. I can't speak for them. I'm not, I'm an ally, but I can't speak on the struggles because I can't relate to them. But I also think that if more people are able to talk about it, I think a lot of people will be able to relate and will be able to accept and will be able to be ally. But do you guys think that maybe we're missing the bigger picture, that more people should talk about it, or we're thinking that, well, it's offensive, so maybe platforms like Netflix should not do that, and listen to the audience and not talk about things and kind of censor them?
I think the problem is in, like, again, the way that he talked about it. I think a lot of the queer community is concerned that it came close to being a dangerous type of rhetoric, and like while it was all in jokes and in jest, a lot of the comments that I'm seeing are that it could border on something that is bigger and concerning, in the same way that it's concerning that Netflix fired people apparently about their feelings on it and the conversations that were held in the workplace about it by queer employees. And so, like, if Netflix wants to be a good ally, give Dave Chappelle his special, but also have more gay and queer and trans comedians as well. Allow there to be space on the platform for everybody to tell their story. Because, like, the one comment I would really make is that, like, it Clinton's right that I also don't believe that Dave Chappelle is homophobic in any way, but that nothing that he said was like good allyship. It was really just trying to enumerate ways in which he is like okay with this group's existence, to a group of people that, you're right, Fidel, have had in the past a hard time with this group's existence. But that's not like doing the work to like sway the vote into like, yes, now we're all big supporters. It was just acknowledging the awkwardness around like mild homophobia and the fact that times are a changing. And I don't think it takes balls to say that. Like, I'm like, you're all right that he, I doubt, was financially motivated, but I still think it is a very telling choice to, in his words, wrap up this group of specials that Netflix allowed him to do by answering all of the questions everyone had about the jokes he made in the other ones and making this the whole topic. Because when he said that, I didn't remember all of the gay comments he made in all the other specials, and I watched them all. To me, that wasn't a highlight or a point at all. And again, I just think that it wasn't good allyship at all. I think these awkward conversations are important, but pay attention to who's holding the conversations and what side the streaming platform seems to be on. They are very clearly on Dave Chappelle's side and not LGBTQ plus creators' side or employees' side. And I think that would create a totally negative experience as an employee for that company to see who is getting preference.
What about you, Clinton?
Well, I don't know that Dave Chappelle deserves praise or all celebrities get criticism. I mean, it's comedy. It's jokes. Jokes are always offensive. Usually, the comedians that don't swear or say anything offensive, they usually don't get too far. Um, in the same light, though, comedy is one of the only mediums on earth where you can say things and have the kind of conversations that people just don't have in general, that are afraid to have in person, that are afraid to have on the internet, that are afraid to have at work. A comedian gets on stage and they have the power to say the most shocking things because they say it in a way that can also make most of the room laugh. It's comedy is magic in that regard. um I don't know. I again, if whether or not he should be praised has to do with, does this push the bar forward for any conversations? Does this allow better conversations to take place in the future? It's a good point that you made for that. Like, I mean, um, is it going to create dialogue in communities where you're not allowed to talk about these kinds of things? Um, I don't know. We'll have to see. And regarding Netflix, I would say that this is one special. Um, I would also say that Netflix is probably responsible for putting out more LGBTQ plus content than any streaming platform ever in the history of mankind. In fact, I've seen articles, and back in the day, I used to see like websites complaining about the amount of gay characters in Netflix shows, how every Netflix show has some kind of queer character in it. And while you were talking, I just did a quick search, post September 24th, 55 of the best LGBTQ plus shows you can watch right now on Netflix. I wouldn't say they're not an ally. Um, I think they put out a ton of LGBT plus content. Um, but at the same time, with cancel culture, you know what's really ironic? Did anyone notice that Seinfeld suddenly popped up on Netflix this week with the, Kramer, that problematic character that said the N-word to hecklers during a live stand-up comedy show, and himself, I guess, got canceled back in the day. Like, Netflix just dropped that. I mean, Netflix is they're like Amazon. They're a beast. They have so much content that it's unbearable, and it's the people that choose to watch this or that show and give those shows the power and the attention that has the power to make news headlines and conversations like these and Twitter explode. I mean, the people chose to watch it, right? So that says something. Like, it proves his legacy, it proves his legend. And I would say there's probably 300 to 500 different comedy specials. I don't think he deserves praise, but he's a legend. He's one of, this particular episode maybe aside, he's one of the funniest people I've ever seen on TV. So, yeah.
Well, hopefully, I guess, like I said,
Oh,
time will tell. We'll see how this ages through the
yeah.
years, and hopefully, again, I think I basically think it's just a special, and I think it opens a conversation. I don't know necessarily. I think I agree with Hillary that I think they need to be more give more specials to LGBTQ plus comedians, and I think I do agree with Clinton as well that I think Netflix has done a lot prior, because I never seen anyone on Showtime or HBO or Comedy Central per se. So I think both of you and make some really good points, saying what that happens. But time will tell. And again, I think if Netflix doesn't get another Chappelle special, Amazon will, or Hulu, or somebody else will get it. So yeah, I think that's it. I think we're gonna wrap this up. You
I'd
guys have
like to
go ahead.
add just very quickly that in the same way that like we were saying about the different aspects of the government, I don't think that a company can really perform allyship. We know it's all for money. They knew that this would blow up in this way and make the money and get the clicks and get the same criticism, which is, I'm sure, why they put it out despite knowing it would be problematic to the LGBTQ plus community. They know that they have a wide variety of LGBTQ plus content for that community as well. In the same way they, like Disney sometimes gets criticisms for the way that they depict animated Black people or Black characters because they tend to die halfway through the movie. But then, you know, they'll also come out with movies that the trailers seem to depict a queer love story, but then they'll release a whole statement saying, no, that's friendship. That's not gay, to appease the Christian audience. Everyone's trying to play everybody to make money. I think that unfortunately this special, it did just that. It received a lot of criticism. I think it alienated a lot of the LGBTQ community. It still got everybody their bag and their money. I don't think it's a good look if I was like employed by them, but like, I also just don't think it's going to open dialogue. I think it's a thing that exists. It's content people will consume. People will form opinions. Life will keep going on. That's it.
All right. So guys, again, we're gonna wrap this up for today. And if you like what you hear, support us on Patreon or on PayPal. Don't forget to give us a like on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Black in the Maritimes. Don't also forget to subscribe to our podcast and also leave us a review. This is always is great for the podcast. You guys have anything else to say?
I'd like to add, check out our YouTube. We've been gaining a small amount of traction over there, and I upload the full episodes divided by segment in case you don't have the time to listen to it all, or you would rather see our faces. I often make funny faces, at least I think so. So check it out, youtube.com, I think /Black in the Maritimes, or just search us there. And yeah, that's it.
All
Quinton
right.
Davis on Instagram. That's it.
All right, guys. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.